Okay, we are live. So you can begin.
Thank you.
Call the meeting to order, even though we've got a couple of people that we still expect. Notice of this meeting has been published and posted in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and the requirements of the town of Kiowa Island. I wanted, first on the agenda, we invited Marianne Conley to come to the meeting. She's calling in via phone, so we don't get to see her cheerful face. But Marianne, I thought I'd give you a chance to introduce yourself. So most of the folks that you've met before, maybe there are people who aren't here that you haven't met, but we really appreciate you acting as liaison with the council this year. And if there's anything you'd like to say, you've got the floor.
Thank you, David. I am very pleased to be the liaison. When I was appointed to this position, I looked forward to working with the Arts Council. You do so many wonderful things. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, you haven't been able to have much live, but I have attended some of the virtual meetings and they've been great. I look forward to working with you, and if there's anything that you need, I'm sure that Keely will tell me. And if there's any way I can help, I'll be there. I'm happy to meet everybody.
We really appreciate your presence, and our meetings can tend to be boring at times, but you're always welcome to come and join us at any time.
Oh no,
Yes,
I'm
agree.
looking forward to it. I would be on Zoom, but there's something wrong with my router today, so nothing is working.
Mine
So I'm
too.
glad we could do the phone. And I'd like to see everybody, but okay.
Thank you, Marianne. I appreciate it.
Joan,
Next,
is that you? Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
my router's not working either.
Uh-oh.
Sorry.
Do you live in Turtle Point?
I live in the general area, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that's where I am. So maybe it's something. I have a feeling it's more with Comcast than it is anything here, but we're trying to see if we can get it to work. Anyhow.
perennial problem on the island at times, for sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
First item on the
That's
agenda is
something they
to.
need to do.
I'm sorry, Joan. Go ahead.
I would say that's something they need to do, is get island-wide internet. You know, they do it other places. Might be something to work on.
First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from April 1st, I believe. I hope you all got a chance to read them. Is there any additions and corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Under old business, we've got to sort of review our current season, which is now over officially, our virtual season. So the last event was the Small Glories. Keely, you want to talk us a little bit about the numbers first, then we can talk about reactions?
Yes. I pulled everything up except for that.
I think there were 92 or 93, if I remember from what you had sent or what I saw.
Yes, I want to get the exact figures for you guys though. Once again, 3 of them were me, but I already took myself out. So I'm just going to pull up what we did for the Arts Council board on the buzz sheet. So we had 97 registrations and 120 views. And I think that we probably would have had more if it had been in January, February, but because more things were open and the weather is so nice, I think we probably had a little less than we could have, but at the same time, it's still really good, and their performance was so nice. So I think we can be proud of those numbers, and you know, obviously some people watched more than once. So
Yeah, and I watched it more than once. I really enjoyed. I got a kick out of them. It was just different from what we're used to a bit. But it was. I think that's sort of what we're going for in terms of diversity of entertainment. And I thought they were. I just enjoyed it. And I know Jody and I spoke a little bit afterwards, and I know she and John liked it as well.
I thought
I
they were
enjoyed it too.
yeah, just terrific. And I told David that for days afterwards, Alexa must have gotten very bored with us because John kept saying, Alexa, play Small Glories. And she did. But I thought they were very generous performers and very professional. So I'm so glad we were able to get them. Love to see them in person.
I'd love to see them in person too. And the audio quality I thought was fine for a Zoom concert, which can be iffy at times. Any other reaction?
Sheila, I'm going to sign on now because I can get Zoom. I'm going to hang up on the phone and sign on.
Hey.
Let's endeth our pandemic season. That's all she wrote. And it's been tough, but I want to thank everybody for the work that they've done over this season. Going on to new business, I'm gonna put up schedule that I've got sort of abbreviated form, so you can see where we're at. Can you all see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
good.
Yeah. So a couple of changes and some things that I wanted to let you know about, and I think I copied you on this, Van, but Narek's agent called Richard at first, and or emailed him, and he wanted to change from his November 2nd date to sometime in the spring because of routing. They've not been able to find any gigs close to that November date. I wrote him back and I said, we're pretty busy right now in the spring, but I told him we would meet today. We would talk about it. I don't think the venue would be a problem because it's Church of Our Savior. We should be able to secure that for a spring date. It's just a question of when. If you look at the, if he considers spring, February to be spring, we only right now have 2 dates in February. So that might be a possibility. And even March is not as busy as we usually would have it. I think the only month that's really sort of condensed in terms of events is April. And so I would probably avoid that. But what do y'all think about that?
I think that makes sense. Also, there's another thing to consider, and that is that in April, our attendance really usually really falls off. The farther out we get into spring, the more we have the people leaving for their summer places and going out and playing golf and all instead. But I think if he could do February, that would be really good.
Let me clarify something. He can still do November. He didn't rule it out.
That's right.
He just wanted he wanted some spring options. So what I'd like to do is give him several dates, and if he wants to choose those, then we'll try to confirm them for him. If not, I think he's willing to stay with the November 2nd.
That's good to know.
Based on what I read.
Man.
I haven't talked to them about what from your email or his email.
Right.
So,
well, if you could do that, that'd be great.
You want me to come up with the dates myself? You say February, March, Sundays?
Yeah, if you look, look at the schedule. We only have the Tuesday the 8th, Friday the 11th and 13th 13th and 22nd in February. So we're pretty open, except for that Sunday the 13th. So the weekend before, the weekend after might work. If you want to shoot me those dates, possible dates first, Van, then we can sort of meet on those, and then you can talk to the agent.
Yeah,
March want to do it on
crowded.
You want to do it on a Sunday, for sure.
Yeah.
That's we had them on a Tuesday originally.
Yeah, Tuesday the 2nd. Yeah.
At 7:30. So I don't have but Sundays are, sort of usual chamber, small,
Right, yeah.
classical. So,
Well, we'll throw Sundays at him and see what he says.
okay, great, thanks.
No, I'll let you know.
We also have a routing problem with Carla Bonoff, which is now on the April 21st. We were able to get Seabrook and we were able to move some things around. So we've got the venue, and the agent now is still trying to find some routing in the Southeast for her, because it's going to be very difficult for her to do one isolated date.
Yeah.
So that's sort of a wait and see as well. I hope we'll find out
David, what
something.
else to mention?
Sorry?
I wanted to mention on the Columbia City Ballet, they have it down as a Thursday, and that's a Tuesday. The date is correct, but not the day of the week.
Thursday?
It's the
that what you said?
Tuesday, not, yeah.
Of this
The
spreadsheet.
date is,
That's on mine, David. I'll
Oh,
fix
okay.
that, Joan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah,
Okay.
the date's fine, but but not the day. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I've got it correct on my sheet, so.
okay.
Let's see, the other thing is, Van, I talked to Joy, and the church is now open to church events. They still can't confirm the Charlestones for September 19th, but they're likely to at some point once they open up the church to outside events. So that's what she said.
Any idea? Can you define somewhat, some point? Or could she decide? I guess they talk about it at every vestry once a month. Is that what they do?
Yeah, and they had a vestry meeting, I think, on April 24th. So the next one's at the end of this month, and I can touch base, or you can touch base with her to see if there's any news on that one.
Yeah, because Charlestones are anxious to
Yeah.
get something nailed down. So do we
Yeah,
need to
and-
maybe come up with an alternative date? Keep that
Yeah.
as the number one choice, and maybe try to get an alternative date so they can get that on their calendar, Charleston's calendar.
Absolutely, and if we moved it to October or November, I think that would be fine, because we were still pretty open in the fall.
Yes.
Well, but will the church be open? That's the key. Yeah.
I think they will. I mean, Joy was pretty optimistic, especially with the CDC's latest report. So I'm hoping when the vestry meets this month, we'll have an answer. But if you want to touch base with her and see when we might get a decision, that'd be great.
Okay. We might get an alternate
Yeah.
date or something. Okay.
The other sort of thing that I highlighted was the young artists, and Jody and I have been back and forth with this. College of Charleston it's tough for them to figure out. It's so far in advance. So what we've done is we've reserved Turtle Point for both the
Good.
17th and the 21st of March, figuring, whichever date might be best for College of Charleston, we can put them in. And Barbara was fine with holding both dates unless something comes up, and she said she would let me know. So that's the only sort of unknown that I have so far, is those the ones that are highlighted on the sheet. If you're on Zoom, you can see that. The only other thing and Judy, do you want to update us on our meeting with CJO?
Yeah, David and Brent Sweeney and I met with Barbara. Brent wanted to see the place, which makes perfectly good sense. And we talked about it. And so he's very enthusiastic about everything except the number of people that we're going to allow. And that we had decided to stick with the governor's 225 max indoors, and they can make it work financially. And we're going to have, for those of you who have been in the building, that was my second time. The rectangle of the what we're using as the concert space is really good. They need a 40-foot stage. So this is going to be the full 18-member Charleston Jazz Orchestra, and the piano and all the stuff that they have. And that we're going to put it on what Barbara terms as the back wall. when you come into the building, it's the wall on the right of those rooms that they've got all opened up. There's plenty of space for them. There's plenty of space for us to put in 225 people at tables of 4. Now, if you do the math, there's one extra person, but we aren't going to quibble about that right now. And this would be at tables of 4, sort of semicircle around the stage. And so that looks very good. And they're really pleased with the space. And Brent has 2 neighbors who are members of the Charleston Symphony. So he got a reading from them on how live the space is. And, it's a different, the jazz orchestra is a different type thing than is the symphony orchestra. He wants to put in a black curtain behind the stage. They did that last year and it looks very nice. So that was good. He talked with the people that we are using now for lighting. And last year we used, oh heavens, I'm having a senior moment. We used the firm that we no longer use. We had some difficulties with them. And Bill was not at all pleased with the green lighting and everything. But Brent checked it out with the firm we are using now, and the other firm, and it is the other firm works with the resort for meetings and events and stuff. And the price of the firm we are using now was more than twice as much as the firm that he used last year. And he wants to use the firm that he used last year because usually they've been able to sell out at 500 tickets, and they just aren't going to get that much money. So he wants to use that firm. So that's what he's going to do. We've had the philosophy that the cultural events people, we expect them to run their event, and that means we don't tell them what they have to do. So that's it. But I think it's going to be terrific. Yes, Jody.
Jody, you're muted.
David.
Thank you. Dave, John came home.
Go ahead. Come on.
No, I just wanted to ask a question about capacity.
Yes.
Won't that be a moving target as the months go on? And
I think it might be. And there's room to add more people and more tables, and these are the standard tables that we've used before, that size. With 4 people, we've got the option of adding more people to the tables. We've got the option of adding more tables. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a moving target, and the CJO would love to have the moving target to increase the capacity.
so will our procedure be to rely on the state requirements and at the time?
That's what we decided before.
Go ahead, Keely and Stephanie, you can weigh in on this.
I'll just give you an update on that because obviously there's been some recent changes. I think everyone's starting to relax the restrictions, obviously not masks yet. And actually, I don't know if everyone saw into last week, but Charleston County lifted their mask ordinance for unincorporated areas, not the city. So people are confused about that. Kiowa still has a mask ordinance in place. And but what council did, and Ms. Connolly, feel free to speak to this, but we have an interim time frame until June where everything's still the same as it has been. The occupancy, restaurant protocols, mask, social distancing, but beginning in June, some of the occupancy requirements that have been lifted are actually going to be lifted for the town of Kiowa Island. And so therefore your capacity will, I can foresee it unless something drastic changes August, we should be, at least being able to consider more than 225, I would think.
Okay.
for
That
that
would be
space.
good, but we're going to have to have, I don't think Barbara's going to need to know too quickly. I think the thing that the people who need to know are the Charleston Jazz Orchestra,
Sure.
because that's going to influence how many tickets
Mhm.
they can sell.
Well, I think, but right, and they usually open that up fairly early.
They would like to have it up for sale now, and I've been putting them off until the Arts Council can decide when we would like for them to put them up for sale.
Well, yeah.
Marianne, did you have something to add in to that?
I would just say I support what Stephanie said, and this is all barring a sudden spike in COVID. We're moving toward relaxing the requirements. We felt that because this is a very peak time for visitors and for the, with the PGA and everything, we didn't want to change everything right away. So June, I believe it's June 1st, it's early June. We will be looking at it again, but things are definitely moving in the right direction.
Yeah, Judy, we may know something June 1st, and I don't think we wanted them to sell tickets until
Yes.
at least this meeting. And that was one of the things we wanted to put on the agenda in terms of, because we usually hold it off until the contracts are out. So I'll sort of leave it to Stephanie and Keely in terms of what you think would be the date. And we could always put ahead, 225 and then put more as we have more information.
Actually, David, what we have done in the past is allowed them to announce at their last concert that tickets were available. And that last concert's coming up in May. So, but we can tell them whatever we choose to tell them about the date.
I think we should probably have a little side discussion about that, since the budget needs to flip over. One, the contract needs to be finalized. Two, and then they would be getting information before our patrons would, because that would come before our planner was released, which I think we've done that once or twice before, but we just need to time that right, so that everybody kind of gets an opportunity to, especially if you're gonna start it out at a smaller capacity. I can see our patrons being pretty upset.
Yes, you're right. And of course, what they want to do is they're thinking more about their patrons, which a lot of them are on Kiowa. But still, that last concert is a good chance to start the publicity and start the ticket sales. So,
yeah.
Well, how do you? I agree with Stephanie, especially if it's only 225. I definitely don't want them to sell tickets to the general public before we have a chance to announce it to our audiences that the tickets are available, which is generally close to when the planner comes out, or at least we can make an announcement, if not have the brochure out at that point. So it may be, Judy, at their last concert, they can announce the date and the venue and the time, and just say, check our website. Tickets will be going on sale soon. So
that I think that's a good compromise. So we can do that, and that's it. And we at this point, probably it would be better for them to say tickets will be available soon, unless we're willing to give them a date.
I think given what we know about venue and capacity, I think that's all we can do.
Right. And another thing I think we need to discuss, since this is the very first event we do, is what about masks?
Well, and what about event managers as well?
So as of right now, the mask ordinance will remain in effect, and council can, in 61-day increments, renew or repeal the ordinance. So right now, you'd have to go with masks if we're making that decision today.
Well, that's what I would support. Of course, I'm living on a situation here at BG where we have 400 and something people, and only 11 people are not fully vaccinated. So we don't have to wear masks on campus, but I wear a mask. And I would wear a mask to this event if in any way, either that or not come. So I would like personally would like to have everybody there masked and vaccinated, but I can't enforce vaccination. So
Well, we should have more information, I think in the next month or two nationwide, let alone the state or the town, in terms of what we'll be able to do. And I'm sure there'll be plenty of time to let our patrons know what enforcements are in effect at the time.
Right.
Okay. Van, did you have something earlier? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just happened to recall with the Charlestones, I did offer them 2 other dates when we knew that the September 19th was iffy. Offered them to take a look at January 30th and February 27th. So just make a note of that. And I don't think there's a conflict with that at this moment. January 30, February 27 as possible alternates for them. And they are aware of those dates and probably have penciled them in. So just make a note of that, and I'll talk to them about that. Hopefully we can do the September.
Thanks. That's great.
Just let me know if there's a conflict.
Just going back to the large question of contracting out events management, is that something we can discuss now, or is that later?
Well, we've actually already budgeted. Sorry, David, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we've already.
No, go ahead, because it's budgeted. We talked a little bit about it last time. We had a Zoom meeting with the folks, and we basically let them know that it's going to be up to us to let them know how many people we want in terms of scanners and ushers and things like that. They'll even have people outside showing people where to park. So it really depends on what we need. So what we'll probably do is have each event manager, and I know Judy and I talked about this when we met at the conference center. We started thinking about how many people we're going to need up front at the doors, how many people, outside. And I think for the larger venues, we're thinking 3 at least. Judy, isn't that what we said?
yeah, I think so. 3
and
at
then
least.
possibly, for the churches, maybe we could get away with 2 scanners at Church of Our Savior, something like that. But that's something that we'll have to see. We can start with 3 or 4, I think, for the jazz concert, see how it goes. I'm not as concerned with parking now that the hotel's not being built and we've got that parking lot near the beach access, which is available.
Any chance, do you know about lead time, assuming we're going to be making this event by event decision, right? So do we know how much lead time they need for?
So we talked with them about doing kind of a seasonal, like we would give them our fall needs and then give them our winter needs. We'd like to get our fall needs to them, probably June or July. So if you can try to think about your needs while you're doing your planning form, and I believe that was a question on the planning form as well, that would be great. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to help. I think at the beginning, especially, I have budgeted for 3 for these events, so I don't see why you shouldn't do at least 3. It's just to see how it goes.
Well, and then also, is it not that there's a supervisor has to be on staff with 2 attendees or ticket takers or whatever that person's assignment is? And just like as a reminder, we kind of saw this as you guys would still be your host, your event, and greet people as they come in, but that they would actually handle a bulk of the work with the scanners and the directional things and that nature, which gives you an opportunity to still host your event and also help your friends that may have, misplaced something, a ticket or
it's
show
in the car.
and their car. And not have to worry about some of the things that, back up the door and things like that. So that's that's the what hopefully it will alleviate. And also, obviously, it was COVID year. We thought we would just remove everyone from the front line of contact with the, changing of the ticketing stuff. So
I would hate for us to try and do less and not get the full benefit of it. So 3 to 4 would be ideal.
I agree with that, both Keely and Stephanie. And I think as long as we give them, if we can have it to them like by July, early July, perhaps for the first concert, I think that would be great. They'll have enough time to prepare and figure out. They've got a lot of employees that they hire, and they do it. So they're used to filling in sort of last minute, but the more time we can give them, the better.
they also have done many events on Kiowa, so not.
They're out here
They're
now.
on the PGA. In fact, they've got 100 employees that are staying on Seabrook, and they're coming in every day to help run the PGA. Becky, are you still there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
The only thing that I had for you is, was there any communication with Pure in terms of the plays for next season?
Yeah, I have to say I've been lax about that, and I haven't asked for the scripts yet. They're doing a play right now online that I haven't seen, but I plan to see before the 22nd, and I think that was one of the options. So I will communicate with her now that that's going on, and that once I see it, I think, that'll give me a better idea. I've also seen a couple of the other ones this year, and I didn't think they were appropriate, but they weren't the ones that she gave us as an option. So I will get those scripts for us to have summer reading for. How's that?
Thank you, Becky. I appreciate that. I put on the agenda a report from the accommodation, the State Accommodation Tax Committee, which I attended on April 24th, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of heads up on that. That committee is now chaired by our Dan Prickett, our friend. And Diana Mezzanotte is on that committee. So there are quite a few art lovers that are there, which is sort of nice. Most of you know that the guidelines for the disbursement of accommodations tax money is basically to put heads in beds. 50-mile radius, they want people from out of town coming on to Kiowa, and that's essentially what they fund. The money, as you know, can be used for supporting activities as well. So beach patrol, county deputies, as all of that supports the tourists that come to the island. Anyway, because of the pandemic, and I tried to get a reservation for my wife's birthday at Jasmine Porch, and was told that only hotel guests could make reservations at the restaurant because the hotel was jammed. I mean, they had 95% occupancy over Easter in April. And the same was true if you gone to Harris Teeter in March or April on a Saturday. It was just crazy this year, and so there was a lot more rentals, a lot more hotel guests than they had anticipated. So that they're looking at a fairly large surplus, and that's even after the fiscal 2022 requests have been funded. As I understand it, the money can still be rolled over, but there was some discussion about creating some kind of event in January or February that would attract a lot of tourists to the island, where the hotel generally does not have a lot of guests in that time period. They talked about perhaps another race like the marathon, because that draws a lot of folks in from off island. They talked about like a series of TED Talks or something intellectual. Even I didn't realize the resort had even brokered the idea of the G7 conference being at Kiowa, which is pretty amazing. And I brought up the idea of a possible arts festival in January or February, and it actually generated a little bit of discussion. Roger Warren, basically said that he would have to be a very big draw, a very big name, not the kind of thing that we would usually book as an arts council. But
We can do that.
Oh, you think he's frozen?
David, you're frozen.
It affects our budget.
Yeah.
A big name,
This
big
is
money.
very interesting to me because as a former member of the ATAX committee for a number of
Difficulties.
years, we couldn't get them we were not allowed to have anything from the Arts Council or anything like an Arts Council event. The symphony concerts, no.
Yeah.
And I remember one guy saying we can't pay performers, and over and over and over. So this is really interesting to me.
well, can you hear me now? My
Yeah, you
internet was
froze.
unstable there. If you know who the agent for Cher is, or Diana Ross, or Dionne Warwick, that's what we're talking. We'll be talking about something in that neighborhood, I think. The committee's going to meet again in November, but I would suspect that if we were to propose something, and this would be a joint proposal, it wouldn't be the Arts Council presenting something. It would be something that we would be doing with the resort and some other partners, probably. But I sort of like the idea of at least us thinking about something that would be big. Stephanie, you were there. Is that your sense as well? I don't know if there was any follow-up after that meeting.
No, just what you were there for. I mean, and just David mentioned that the budget carries over. So for ATAX, you have 2 years to spend that money. That's separate from us. So that's why they can roll that over, because that's the requirements that come along with that money. State mandates that. It was, they were going to come back to the table and think about how to adequately use those funds in those months where they typically have a lull. Judy made a good point, though, that there is restrictions about what you can use that money for. Mm-hmm. And so what I think everyone was tossing around was the thought of a joint effort event. And so I'm not sure that they're going to be saying we'll take this amount of money and pay a performer if you're able to get one, but that everyone might come back to the table, agree on a project that everyone would work together, and then that money could be used to promote and advertise and the actual things that you can use that money for. But you got to get everybody's buy-in first. And obviously, if it is an event related, performer related, it would need to be a big name. And so that's the impression I got.
May I say something? Yeah. The Southeast Wildlife Expo has artists from all over the world there, and that's the middle of February. And it might be something to think about. Some of these world-renowned artists are there at that time. We might be able to hook on to some of them.
Yeah, the only thing I'm a little wary of is that Dan said we'd get back together in November, and that's not a lot of time to plan something in January and February. So I would think that a smaller group, and maybe it's something that if someone had an idea, it'd be a good idea for a couple of members of that committee, maybe Diana and Dan and myself and Roger Warren, just to talk about some ideas that we might have. And as Stephanie said, could be co-sponsored, because I think 2 months is not going to be enough. 2 or 3 months is not going to be enough to plan something like this.
What about, is the resort going to be doing its jazz festival?
That came up, Stephanie, but I'm trying to remember what they said about that.
There was a problem with it, and I can't remember what it was. I'm not sure
if the problem was the host, and I think it is because he's not well, Klug, that's perfectly remediable. But I would think that the jazz festival would be a logical thing to put some money into. It draws a lot of people to Kiowa. The resort gets full for those things.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe some of our jazz stuff might interfere with, I don't know. I think there was there was a problem with the event. That's all.
Yeah, and I sensed from them that they weren't sure they were going to continue it, even just because of the draw or a couple of other things that I wasn't even aware of. But I had the same sense, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted everyone to sort of think about it, and maybe if you come up with a big name and an idea over the next month or so between now and the June meeting, put some things on paper and we can talk about it. We'll put this on the agenda, see if anyone has some ideas. I told Jody about it as well, because you know agents, and sometimes they have some big names that are out there that might have some time in January or February. And if we can put something together on a Friday or Saturday night or something like that, or 2 nights, that might be sellable to the resort. And again, it's not for our audiences. It's really for folks coming in.
It really ideally would need to be at least 2 nights, because here we go back to the heads and beds. There's going to be the attendees are going to need to have a reason to spend the night to really justify this.
I think it's always what in concept would have to be something like the marathon or an event, and then the entertainment would be the slam dunk situation.
Yeah,
Could be a combination of that, because there's certainly enough money to fund those things if they wanted to do that. Okay, well, think about that.
I'm wondering if something like Steep Canyon Rangers would be a big enough draw.
I don't think so.
Dan says no.
I think you got to think Las Vegas more than on that line.
They were talking very big names in there.
The 3 names that David mentioned, Sheriff, Warwick, and those, you'll have to explain to Stephanie Keeley who they are.
Yes, that's exactly right.
No, I've been to a Cher concert, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
I had a sister 8 years older than me that educated me on a lot of things.
Okay.
This reminds me, several years ago, we were supposed to be thinking big. So Joan Collar thought really big, and she had some past connection with Bette Midler, right, Joan?
Yes,
Okay.
she's a friend.
So Joan, speaks with the agent and explains her connection and asks about the cost. And what were you told? $500K?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And so Joan says,
but I can.
But wait, I'm an old friend
it.
of hers, blah, 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 blah. What's the price for old friends? And they said $500K. So Bette Midler might be that would be a fun thing I don't know if she's still hot or not. So
Big names. I used to help with a big art center in West Virginia, the Clay Center, and we booked before Bill Cosby had his downfall. He was 100,000, and the acts that we got, we had, I think, Dionne Warwick for 100,000. We did have Diana Ross come in. They were all between 100 and 150,000.
Right.
This was about 7 years ago. So.
Yeah, Bette Midler is 75, so that fits our local demographic anyway.
Exactly. So she's younger than some of us.
Yeah, that's true. Well, something to think about and get excited about. Not sure anything's going to come of it, but I just wanted you to be aware of that. Anytime there's money on the table, it's good to know where it is.
I think we should do Fleetwood Mac and have a mac and cheese element.
Oh, I love it.
Fleetwood Mac on Friday and the Eagles on Saturday night. Then.
I was going to ask, are the Eagles still touring?
Yes.
The hell freezes over 3.
Oh.
That was one of my first live albums. The Hell Freezes Over.
And yes, they are touring because
yes.
I just saw something on that came across my email. So go figure. I wanted to put Keely on the agenda too, which is not under new business. She had a couple of announcements, also a reminder on those to get your event planners in. So Keely, go ahead.
Okay, so as some of you know, we had invoiced artists that we canceled for their deposits back, because in our contract, we get the deposit back. That was written into all the contracts. And we have not received our deposits back from one particular group. It's the representation for Conrad and for Beelman. And I wanted to see if y'all wanted me to, get in touch with them and, explain to them our fiscal year is about to end. We need this back. Or if you wanted to schmooze it on your end. But we do need them back, and I would like them back before we release new contracts to these people.
Keely, didn't I agree to give it back originally when you mentioned it to them?
Oh, I sent them
Daniel
invoices.
Sorry, but Keely, I didn't hear it about an invoice.
We invoiced them for the deposit back, so they should have gotten those in, and I'm happy to follow up and see where they're at. I can understand how some of these groups could have cash flow issues right now, but it's just, we do need them back. So would y'all, it's Jody and Becky, would you like me to do the uncomfortable task?
Yeah.
You want to be the heavy, Keely? Lean on them a bit.
Either way, I don't want to put Keely in a position that you're really uncomfortable with. But if you've already asked once,
I'd rather be the buffer, so you guys can just have the kind of good dream up events relationship, and I can be the kind of, I don't know.
heavy.
I think it coming from the town is going to be more powerful anyway.
Yeah, I think so. Why don't Jody and Becky, you continue to be the good cops and keep on their good side. And Keely, maybe if you could just tell them that we can't go ahead with the new contracts for both of them until the deposits are back. That's just a little note.
And it's a good time to reach out because I have the end of the fiscal year coming up, so it can be like a kind of, hey, we need this. So
well, also they may need to understand that even though we're having them again next year, that we operate on a yearly budget that ends, in June, and so therefore we can't carry it over till next year, because I suppose we have to give them a deposit again, right, for the following year.
Yeah,
yes,
it's a lot cleaner that way when you're dealing with municipal budgets and things that don't roll over, really.
Plus, it's a brand new contract, right? So
It is.
Right.
That's right.
But they may need to understand that better. Unfortunately, we're dealing with the same exact agent for both artists and the same company. And so they should understand that. It should be easy to deal with Daniel, I would think.
Sure. I will
think Keely just wanted your, that it was okay to prod them again, and that you didn't want to be the one. Yeah.
Out of the way, Keely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the other thing is, I just wanted to mention that we do need a new piano tuner, and I know Joan was looking into that a little bit, and I was curious, Joan, if you had landed on anyone, or if you were still kind of investigating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and looking for a backup too, because he's going to retire pretty soon. And so if anybody has any other recommendations, That would be good.
Churches are asking
John-
me for recommendations too, for piano
Okay,
tuners.
John Eisenhart is the one that I have. But he told me that he's only going to do this for another couple of years. So it would be good if we do get somebody else lined up.
I can check with the CJO about who they use and check with some.
Oh,
some
that's
other
good.
people.
Yeah.
Because you know when you somebody like the CJO or they know who's reliable and have a working relationship with them. And that's what we need. Is
Well, I know
somebody we
John
can build
did
a
it for
relationship
them
with.
for a while too. Yeah. So, but I would appreciate that. Yeah.
Another option, this has happened with me before, had a piano tuner that we really liked, retired. That did our piano tuning. And after he retired, we hired him just to be our piano tuner periodically, and he was okay doing that.
Right.
So that might be an option down the road.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Did he give you pricing, Joan?
It was 150.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And then just another minor update while we're talking vendors. I touched base with Andrew Higdon last week, and he's ready when we are ready for the pandemic to be over. But he said very nice things about our decision making and our priorities and whatnot. But
Yeah, Andrew wants some work.
yeah, I was worried. I was worried about him, and so I wanted to check in. And he's has a great attitude.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these folks have changed professions over the last year and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
It's true.
Need to put food on the table.
And the only other thing was the reminder to please get your planning forms in so I can start preparing our contracts. And I believe I gave you the due date of Wednesday, May 19th, which is next week, right?
I walked this morning for a
What did
Yes.
you
It's
say?
Monday, so Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh, that's a Wednesday.
Sorry, I don't know why that was confusing.
David, may I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
I just wanted to say that obviously it's completely up to you guys and David, but that the town has begun having in-person meetings again. And so whenever you are comfortable, we just need to make sure that we reserve the conference room and we have you through the rest of the year. But if we're not going to be using that, maybe it just might be time to start thinking about that, even if it's in the fall, so that, you know, everybody could sort of be on the same page and we're not, you know, kind of, or if we're staying Zoom. I would prefer not to stay Zoom because I like seeing you guys in person, but I do understand that it might be a while before we do that.
Is there a larger space we could use?
Yes, so that was
we used the conference, the council chambers with a big table for the ATAX, the STAX meeting, and it worked out pretty well. I felt really comfortable there. And Marianne, you've been doing some in person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're having our public safety meeting Wednesday in person. That's the first one.
Yeah.
So, and we've had some council meetings in person, and they've worked out well because of the spacing in the chambers there.
And just to give you an idea, Jody, we'd kind of do like a horseshoe table, or not horseshoe, like a long rectangular table. And as you know, as far as you need to be apart, we just put the chairs and then remove any audience really. I mean, we'll leave a couple in case public decide they want to come, but it's a pretty large room. It's council chambers plus that partition in the back that's the training room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a safe space.
Well, you know, our little conference room was always cozy, but in the past we didn't mind, you know, we didn't have that far to pass the candy. But it's just amazing how the past year, I think, has changed us all with respect to our sense of space. It's a weird thing.
Sure.
We still have the candy.
Candy was still there for the STAX meeting. So But everyone had their own little jar, so.
That works.
I have no correspondence. Any other committee reports or member reports or anything anyone wants to bring
Yes,
up?
I have one. I just wanted to report that now that we have our schedule pretty firm, I am meeting with the Sandcastle for our to match up dates for the fall for our piano bars and for the art movies. And this, I want to make sure we get in there before other people take the dates.
Yeah, there's a demand for venues all over.
Right.
Know that all too well. Thank you, Joan, for that. And let us know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Appreciate it. I've got no comments. Anything else from anyone else?
I actually did have one more thing. And just for Ms. Conley to note, when this, you obviously know there's been a lot of venue rescheduling issues. So I wanted to tell everybody that, we normally don't have as many events at Seabrook, but we had all kind of talked about how this year, this post-pandemic year is going to look a little different. So we decided that probably the best way to approach that is to go ahead and do some sort of communication, not right this moment, but leading up to the season planner release, letting our patrons know that this year may look a little different, meaning artist placement and things of that nature, to kind of give them a little bit of this is the reason why, because everyone's rescheduling and we don't have as many, as much of flexibility this year. Because with the amount that we're having at Seabrook, I'm sure someone was going to wonder why that is. And so I'd just like to, when we start moving in that direction, go ahead and start preparing them to see the schedule looking different.
Yeah, just so you know, so we can all be on the same page. Barbara, their staff is doing a great job at rescheduling, but there are no open dates at West Beach the entire month of April. Nothing.
Leave it.
So. That's all I have got. If there's not anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
So moved.
Second.